I moved in with my father when I was 15 years old. I actually met him for the first time when I was 14, other than like a few phone calls. And I was kind of lied to about how good of a father he was going to be. He ended up being a drunk, right? He ended up being like an asshole. And there was a very different relationship between me and my father and me and my mother, because they're very different people, right? She's just crazy, mentally ill, but he's this like alcoholic, narcissistic asshole. And since I didn't really know him growing up, I wasn't really prepared for all that when I did move in with him. And of course, like when I first moved in with him, he was on his best behavior. He was all nice, whatever. And I had my oldest sister, she lived there too. I have two other siblings that still lived with my mother. So my oldest sister was there, and she would kind of step in and like separate us and make it so that my father couldn't like beat me up, and that like I guess I wouldn't instigate him or whatever. So when that changed, like when she moved out, the dynamic got worse, and he started like really being an asshole to me and really being a problem. But I don't know, it's hard to explain some things, but when I was a child, I always wanted to know what it felt like to have a dad. I always wanted to know my dad. I wanted to have that relationship, even though I was told, well, your father's been to prison, right? He's an asshole, he's terrible, blah, blah. And some of it was true, some of it was not. So I did hear a lot of lies from my mother about my father, but some of it was true. He really was an asshole. And he did go to prison. He got a DUI. He was actually a pastor, and he got a DUI on Good Friday. So, that's a problem in and of itself. But like, most of the things that my mother told me that my father did to me, like as a kid, like when we were going through a divorce, or like she accused him of all kinds of shit, and he didn't do that. Like that was all a lie. And he did show me like paperwork, and I read that, and I found out that that part was a lie. So I was willing to give my father a chance, and obviously I couldn't live with my mother anymore. That relationship was over. So I was willing to try and give having a father a chance. And I quickly realized that when your father is just this like narcissistic, alcoholic, like we went to like parent-teacher conferences at one point, and I was a great student, right? I really put a lot into like learning, and I was like active in class. Like I was the kid who would be like, yeah, teacher, we had homework, just to like piss off the other kids. Like I was that kid. Like I was a good student. And we went into parent-teacher conferences, and it was just nothing but insulting me. It was nothing but trying to make me look bad in front of my teachers. And they like looked at him, and they're like, no, she's a great student. Like she has a very vibrant personality. Like, you know, it was kind of nice to see some of my teachers defend me there, but like that's basically what I dealt with. I dealt with like an asshole father who didn't really like me, and essentially my parents were at war with each other. And when my mother gave custody of my dad, that was like my dad finally won one of the battles in the war, and she had no recourse for winning that battle or like taking over. Like she had lost me, and she had already lost my oldest sister. And then at one point, my middle sister also, when she turned 18, she came and lived with me and my dad and my sister for like a year. And my mother really hated that. But like everything was, it was like this, the divorce was a war. And it was like this constant custody battle from when I was 18 months old to when I turned 18. Like this was a very, very long war. And he never treated me like a child, or like his child. Like, he just treated me like a pawn between him and my mother. Like, it was like, oh, well, I'm winning this from your mother, I'm winning that, oh, she's losing. Like, it's just very, it didn't feel like what I thought having a father should feel like. And on top of that, he was an asshole and abusive and whatever, and like, I just didn't like my father. And so I left when I was 18. After I graduated high school, I worked for 2 months to save up enough money to get like a plane ticket to go live with my aunt and uncle. And by that point, my other sister had lived there because she couldn't stand living with her dad because he was an asshole. So it was weird. I think I lived with my dad for 3 years, my sophomore, junior, senior years of high school. And growing up as a child, I had like this fantasy of what my father would be like, and he really didn't live up to that. And I want to say that really affected me in like, that was the grass is not greener on the other side, like, realization. Like, I finally came to the understanding of what that statement really meant, and I was very disappointed that that was what my father was, because coming from like a schizophrenic mother who's just so crazy I couldn't stand to be around her, he really didn't have to do much to be better than that. Like, he didn't have to try to be a good dad. He just didn't need to be bad. Like, if all it was just like a lazy alcoholic guy who just wanted to like sit on the couch, like a deadbeat dad, right? If he was really just like a deadbeat dad and not engaged in my life, but like otherwise not really harming me, like not being an asshole to me, not causing me problems, like if he was just like there and let me do my own thing, because I was a very independent child, and I still am, and I just feel like like I say, I don't tell him because I don't talk to him, but I've like told the, you know, family and other people that like he had a second chance with me and he screwed it up. And he really didn't even need to do that much to be a better father than my mother was a mother for me. Like, he didn't have to try. He didn't have much to do. Like, I would have been just like happy with a dad who like was nothing. And he turned out to be an asshole and he really screwed it up. But I don't know, meeting my dad I was 14 when I first met him, and I was 15 when I moved in with him, and that really affected me, and I think it does affect me in life, and it's a wonder I don't have daddy issues. And I've talked to people about it before, and like I've had a lot of people that are like, well, why don't you have daddy issues? Why aren't you dating some like 70-year-old guy? Like, what's going on with you that you don't have all those issues? Because like statistically, with the relationship I have with my dad, I should have a lot more daddy issues. I should have a lot more problems with that. But I think what happened is, since I was 15, like I was an independent child, like I really like formed my own identity within myself. Like, my world was anything I could see, anything I could verify, because I had to like defend myself from everybody around me. I had to defend myself from my bullies. I had to defend myself from my mother. I had to defend myself from my siblings. So like I was very independent. I like had my own world I lived in. My world that I lived in was not the same world as everybody else lived in around me. And so like when I did meet my dad, I was my own person. Like, I didn't need him to influence me. I didn't need him to raise me. I didn't really need my father to be a father. I needed him to give me a place to live, so I didn't have to live with my mother, and just until I turned 18. Like, that's really what I saw my father as when I moved out of my mother's house. Was like, oh, I get to meet my dad, whatever. But then I, like, really, it was just, I guess maybe I didn't have the right expectations of what my father would be and what I needed him for, because I really just needed him to give me a place to live until I turned 18. And then he proved he wasn't going to be a good dad, so like that was still fine. And I did want to meet him at first. I did want to live with him at first because he was nice at first, but I didn't really know who he was. But things didn't work out, so I left. And that was a good decision. That was a decision I have no regrets over at all. It was healthy for me to leave that situation, that relationship, and it has been much, much better for me to not have any contact with my father. And I know family estrangement is difficult for a lot of people. It's been difficult for me. I don't want to say that, like, you know, my life is so happy, oh, everything's like roses and butterflies and rainbows, because it's really not. And I've had a lot of problems in life, and I've had a lot that I've had to deal with, and it's been difficult. But overall, it's better not to be around him. Better for me to not be around him. Well, I'm probably done talking about this for today. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them down below. I will answer every question you guys ask me, and I will be truthful as I can be about it. So feel free, go ahead, ask your wildest questions. If you guys have any comments or have like a similar situation or want to share your experience, leave that down below. Like I said, I'm gonna read all these comments. I will reply to every single one of them, and I'm gonna like maybe make a video on it. If you guys have any topics you want me to make a video on, or I think any topic you leave down below would be good for a video, I'll make a video on it. So if you guys are interested, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and maybe I'll see you next time.